My name is Daimeji. I was born in a small town where the sun was always hot, the ground was always dry, and people wore their pain like old clothes. My house was made of mud bricks, the roof covered in rusty zinc that clattered each time the wind grew angry. We didn't have much, but we had each other. My father, my mother, and my 3 younger siblings. Then one day everything changed. My father got sick first. A cough that didn't stop, a fever that made his body shake. We had no money for hospital bills, so my mother boiled herbs, prayed, and begged neighbors for help. But the sickness didn't stop. One morning he didn't wake up. Just like that, gone. I didn't even have time to cry properly. Because only a few weeks after we buried him, my mother fell ill too. Her eyes were always tired, her skin turned pale, and her legs could no longer carry her. I remember how she held my hand one night and whispered, "Daimeji, promise me you'll take care of them." I didn't know what to say. I was only 17. Then she died. Suddenly I became a father, a mother, and a brother, all in one. My siblings were just kids. Sod was 10, Taupe was 7, and baby Fola was just 4. They didn't understand what death truly meant. They kept asking when Mama would come back. I didn't have the courage to tell them she never would. We had no food, no money, no relatives who wanted us. Just us and our broken home, sitting like a wound in the middle of town. At night, Sod would cry from hunger. Taupe would scratch his skin from mosquito bites. Fola would cough and cough until he slept in my arms. And I would stay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling hunger eat my stomach like fire. My tears would fall quietly so they wouldn't hear me. I tried everything. I carried people's loads at the market just to get coins. I swept compounds. I fetched water for old women with cracked feet and bent backs. I washed clothes for strangers. I even sold my father's old radio for rice and kerosene. But it was never enough. Some days we ate once. Other days we drank Gary soaked in dirty water. There were nights I had to lie that I already ate so my siblings could have the little food we had. My bones started to stick out. My eyes sank in. My trousers began to fall off my waist. I was becoming a ghost. People looked at me like I was already finished. Nobody wanted to help. Some said I should give my siblings to an orphanage. Others said I should leave the town and look for better. But how could I leave them? Who would wipe Fola's nose? Who would help Sod with her schoolwork? Who would protect Taupe when bullies came? One day, I went to the mechanic workshop where I once washed cars. I begged the owner, Baba Femi, for a job, any job. He looked at me with tired eyes and said, "You look like a boy carrying the whole world. What happened to your people?" "They're all gone," I whispered. He gave me work. He said I could help clean tools, sweep the place, and run errands. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. He paid me 1,000 Nigerian nairas per week. That was the money I used to buy beans, gari, and soap. Sometimes he gave me leftover food to take home. I never told him, but his kindness kept us alive. Still, it was hard. The hunger didn't leave. Stayed with us like a shadow. The suffering clung to my body like my own skin. My dreams faded. I used to want to become a teacher. I used to love drawing. I used to smile. But not anymore. I was just surviving. Then something happened. Something strange. One hot afternoon, I was carrying engine parts from the workshop to a customer's house. As I passed behind the central market, I heard 2 women talking loudly. "Have you heard?" one of them said. "That rich old woman is looking for a young husband." "Stop. Which rich woman?" the other one asked. "That one with the big house near the petrol station. The one they say has no children and too much money." I couldn't see their faces, but I could feel the way they gossiped. Laughing, whispering, shaking heads. "She wants a young man to marry. She says she's tired of being alone and needs someone to manage her business. But people are saying she's mad." "Ha! Who will marry someone that old? Except a very hungry boy." They both laughed. I stood there, frozen. My heart pounded. A strange thought entered my head. Could this be the answer to my suffering? But I shook my head quickly. Well, what kind of nonsense is that? Me. Marry an old woman. What will people say? What kind of man would I be? Yet that night I could not sleep. I kept thinking about the house with the iron gate. I had walked past it before. It was tall and quiet. The woman who lived there rarely came out. People said she was powerful, rich, and scary. Some said she used to be married but lost everything. Her husband, her children. Some said she had charms. Others said she just wanted peace before death. I didn't know what to believe. But I knew one thing: we were starving. The next day, Tope fainted on his way back from school. He hadn't eaten breakfast. His teacher called me. I had to run to the school barefoot. When I got there, he was lying under a tree, weak, pale, and crying. That day broke me. I carried him on my back and walked home in silence. My heart was shouting. My soul was tired. I was just 17, but I felt like a man with no future. That night, I looked at my siblings sleeping on the mat. Their stomachs were flat, their faces thin. Felt like a failure. Big one. Then the whisper from the market came back again. That rich old woman is looking for a young husband. I sat outside in the darkness, staring at the moon. I began to wonder if life was trying to tell me something. Was it shameful to do something so strange? If it meant saving the people I loved? Was dignity more important than survival? Or had I suffered so much that I was now ready to do anything? The next morning I woke up early. I hadn't really slept, just lay there, listening to Fola's breathing and the noise of rats scratching in the ceiling. Sada's leg was over my chest, and Tope had rolled to the corner of the mat again. They were still asleep, peaceful but tired, their stomachs empty. I stepped outside quietly. The morning was cold and my bones ached. I walked to the edge of the small road in front of our house and sat on a big stone. I looked up at the sky. There were no stars left, just dull clouds floating like tired souls. I kept thinking about the rich old woman. Would she really want someone like me? A skinny boy with worn-out slippers and dust always on his face. What would I even say to her? "Hello ma, I heard you are looking for a young husband. My name is Daimeji, and I'm hungry." I laughed quietly. But there was no joy in it. I remembered how people had talked about her house. Big gates, tall walls, guards. They said she used to own stores in Lagos and Abuja. They said she came back to the village after her husband died. Others whispered that she once adopted a child, but he ran away and left her heartbroken. Still, I didn't believe everything people said. People love gossip, especially about the rich. The truth gets lost in the noise. As the sky grew brighter, I stood up and swept the front of our house. Then I boiled water and woke the kids for their bath. There was no soap left, just ashes mixed with sand. We used it anyway. I made them brush their teeth with charcoal. We had no breakfast. Tope said, "Brother Daimeji, when will we eat rice again?" I smiled and said, "Very soon. Maybe today." But I didn't believe it. I was just trying to keep hope alive. I tied a small wrapper around Fola and gave him a stick to play with. Then I walked with Sod and Tope to school. Their uniforms were torn, but they still wore them proudly. After dropping them off, I went straight to Baba Femi's workshop. That day I worked harder than usual. I cleaned oil from the floor, arranged tools, and helped lift a car battery into place. My hands were sore, my stomach empty, but I said nothing. Around noon, Baba Femi handed me a sachet of water and a half-eaten bread. I thanked him like it was gold. But my mind wasn't there. I kept going back to that house with the iron gate. Later that evening I passed by the market again. I slowed my steps as I reached the same spot where I had heard the gossip. And then I saw her, the old woman. She was standing in front of a fruit seller, wearing a long, dark wrapper and a cream-colored blouse. Her head tie was perfectly wrapped, her skin wrinkled but glowing. Her eyes were sharp, like someone who saw more than people thought. She didn't look weak at all. She picked up a mango and squeezed it. The fruit seller shook her head. "That one no ripe, madam." The woman dropped it without a word and picked another. People were looking at her. Some whispered. Others turned away when she looked at them. But me, I just stood there behind a stall, hiding. I stared at her like I had never seen a woman before. She looked strong and sad. Was she really the one they were talking about? She finished buying her fruits and walked to her car. It wasn't flashy, just a simple silver car with dark windows. A driver opened the door, and she entered without looking back. The car drove away slowly. I stood there, heart beating fast. Something inside me said, "Follow her." But my legs refused to move. That night, I couldn't eat the little bread I had brought home. I just gave it to the kids and went outside to think. The town was dark. No streetlights. Just the soft flicker of lanterns inside homes. I felt like the road was calling my name. Like the gate of that big house was waiting to open. So I made a decision. The next morning, after dropping off the kids at school, I asked around. I didn't ask directly, but I spoke like I was looking for work. I asked one mechanic who knew someone that used to deliver food to her house. He looked at me strangely. "You want to work for Madam? She doesn't hire people like us." He nodded. "I can do anything." He raised an eyebrow. "She's looking for a husband, not a houseboy." I didn't answer. He laughed. "Are you planning to be her husband?" I smiled, but I felt cold inside. "I just want to help my siblings." He looked at me for a long time, then sighed. "Her name is Madame Veronica. Her house is by the big almond tree, past the broken water tank. But if you're serious, just go and knock. That's how brave people do it." Thanked him. That afternoon I went there. I took a bath with cold water, brushed my teeth with salt, wore my cleanest shirt, and rubbed powder on my face to hide the tiredness. I carried nothing with me. Only my beating heart and silent prayers. When I got to the house, I stopped. The gate was tall, black and strong with gold lines across it. The walls were covered in flowers. There were security cameras. A small bell was fixed beside the gate. I wanted to run back home. But I thought about Taupe fainting. I thought about Sada's question about rice. I thought about Fola sleeping hungry. So I pressed the bell. Nothing happened. Pressed again. A small voice came through a speaker. "Yes. Who are you?" My mouth was dry. Good afternoon, sir. I want to see Madame Veronica." There was silence. Then, "Why?" I swallowed. "Please, I need to speak to her. It's important." Another silence. Then the gate opened slowly, just wide enough for one person to enter. I stepped in. My heart jumped. Inside was a big compound, clean and quiet. Flowers everywhere. A white dog barked from far away. A guard in a blue uniform pointed toward the house. "Go. She's inside." I walked like someone entering a new world. My slippers made soft sounds on the tiled floor. My legs were shaking. I reached the front door. It opened before I could knock. A young woman in uniform stood there. "Come in. She's waiting." Entered. The house smelled like lavender. Everything was neat. Marble floors. Glass tables. Pictures on the wall. A huge clock ticked slowly. Then I saw her. Sitting on a cream-colored chair, holding a teacup. She looked up at me. Her eyes were sharp again. Watching me like she could read my soul. "What is your name?" she asked. "Daimeji," I said, barely above a whisper. She nodded. "Sit down." I obeyed. She placed her cup down. "Why are you here?" I took a deep breath. I heard people say you are looking for a young man to marry." She did not blink. "And you think you can be that man?" "I don't know," I said quickly. "But I'm desperate. My parents are dead. I'm taking care of 3 younger ones. We're suffering. I don't want to be useless anymore." She looked at me for a long time. I was sweating. Then she asked, "Do you love me?" Froze. I couldn't lie. "No," I said softly. "I don't even know you." She nodded. "Good." Then she stood up. And said something I didn't expect. "Come back tomorrow." I didn't sleep that night. Not because of hunger. This time I was too full of thoughts. Her voice kept playing in my mind. Calm but strong. "Come back tomorrow." Just 3 words, but they felt like thunder in my chest. I kept asking myself questions. Why did she ask me to return? Was she testing me? Was she laughing at me? I didn't know. Sod noticed something was different. That night, while I helped her wash Fola's feet, she asked, "Brother Daimeji, why are you smiling small?" I hadn't realized I was smiling. Quickly stopped. "Did someone give you work?" she added with hope in her voice. "Something like that," I replied. "But it's not yet sure." She nodded. "I prayed to God today at school. I told him you need help." Those words broke me. I kissed her forehead and told her to sleep. Then I stepped outside into the cold breeze and whispered, "God, if this is the help, please don't let it be a trap." The next morning I woke up early. I wore the same shirt as yesterday and ironed it with a hot pot. I brushed my teeth with salt again and used water to pat down my rough hair. My heart was pounding the entire time. Before I left, I gave the children the last 2 slices of bread we had. I told them I was going to see someone important. Sod asked, "Will they help us?" Pause. "I think so." Then I walked. Every step felt heavy. My feet were fast, but my chest was slow. My head was full. The road looked longer than usual. When I reached Madame Veronica's gate, I didn't hesitate this time. I pressed the bell. The same voice spoke. "Yes. It's Daimeji," I said. The gate opened slowly again. This time the same guard nodded without asking anything. I walked in. The house looked the same, but I didn't. I was different now. Yesterday I came with fear. Today I came with a little courage. The young woman opened the door for me again. "She's in the backyard," she said. I followed her through the house, past the living room, the staircase, and the glass doors. The backyard was quiet, full of flowers. Birds flew above. In the center was a round table with an umbrella. Madame Veronica was sitting there, reading a newspaper. She looked up. "You came," she said. He nodded. "Yes, Ma." She folded the paper and placed it on the table. "Sit." I obeyed, sitting on the edge of the chair. She studied me again. "Why didn't you run away?" I blinked. "Ma." "Most people would. They'll laugh when they hear I asked them to come back. They'll think I'm playing games. But you returned." "I don't have anywhere else to go," I said truthfully. "If this doesn't work, I don't know what else I'll do." She stared at me in silence. The wind blew softly. Then she asked, "Do you know what people call me in this town?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Some people say you are rich. Some say you are strange." She smiled faintly. "Some say I'm a witch." I swallowed hard. "Yes, I heard that too. And yet," she said slowly, "you still came." He nodded. "Yes." She sat back in her chair. "Do you believe I'm a witch?" I shook my head. "No. I believe you're someone that people don't understand." She stared at me longer this time. Then, for the first time, she chuckled. "You're bold." I didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. She took a deep breath. "Let me tell you something, Daimeji. I'm not looking for a husband because I'm lonely. I've lived alone for many years. I'm not afraid of being alone." He nodded. "I'm not looking for someone to sleep beside me. I have my own bed and I sleep well." I nodded again, still confused. "What I'm looking for is someone who can carry what I've built. My shops, my name, my land. My legacy." I blinked. I didn't expect that. She continued. "I once had a son. I adopted him when I was younger. He stayed for 10 years. Then he disappeared. Left with money. I never saw him again." She paused, her voice low. "I don't want to die with all my hard work wasted. I need someone who can learn, grow, and take over when I'm gone. Someone who needs help, but is not lazy. Someone who has nothing but has strength." She leaned forward. "Do you still think you're that person?" I sat still. My mouth was dry. My heart was racing. "Yes," I said softly. She stared deep into my eyes. Then she stood up and said, "Follow me." I rose and followed her. She took me to a small room near the back of the house. Inside was a desk, a chair, a bookshelf, and a big calendar on the wall. She pointed to the desk. "This will be your training room. If you agree." I stood shocked. "Training?" She nodded. "I will teach you. Every day for 1 month. About my business. About my life. If you pass, we will marry." My head spun. Marriage? I thought this was about learning or helping her. But marriage? She saw my confusion. "I know what people will say. They'll laugh. They'll gossip. But let them. I'm not marrying for romance. I'm marrying to pass on my name." I didn't speak. She pointed at the bookshelf. "You will start reading today. Come tomorrow at 8 a.m. sharp. If you're late, don't bother coming again." I nodded, feeling like the ground was shaking under my feet. "Now go," she said. Outside the sun was hot. The gate closed behind me slowly. I walked back home in silence. I couldn't think clearly. My mind was full of fire. Was this a trap? Or was this really a blessing? When I reached home, Saad ran to me. "Did they help you?" she asked. I knelt down and hugged her. "Not yet," I whispered. "But I think help is coming." That night I didn't sleep again. Not from fear, but from something new. I didn't tell anyone what Madame Veronica said to me that day. I couldn't. How would I even explain it? That an old, rich woman wanted to marry me. Not for love, not for pleasure, but to pass on her legacy. That she would train me like a student for 1 whole month. That I would have to sit in a small room and learn how to become someone else. It sounded like a lie even to me. The next morning I woke up early again. I made sure the kids had water and the last cup of Gary. I tied Tope's shoes with string. Saad helped me clean baby Fola's mouth after he ate sand again. The house was still empty of food, but something felt different. There was a small light inside me now. Like a candle. When I got to Madame Veronica's house, it was 7:59 a.m. I rang the bell. The gate opened. The same guard nodded. "You're early." "She'll like that." I entered quietly and went straight to the room she showed me yesterday. Inside, the desk had been cleaned. A notebook and pen were placed on top. On the bookshelf I saw books about sales, farming, shops, transport, and even taxes. She entered the room without a sound, holding a brown folder. "You came," she said. "I said I would," I replied. She handed me the folder. "Today you'll learn how I started. My first shop. How I made my first profit." I opened the folder. The first page had her picture from many years ago. Young, beautiful, fierce eyes. Under it, she had written Veronica's World, from the dust to the crown. She began to speak. For the next 3 hours she told me stories. How she once sold groundnuts by the roadside. How she moved to Lagos with nothing but a polythene bag and a dream. How she washed clothes for big women and saved every kobo. How she bought her first container of imported shoes. How the container got stolen. How she cried. How she rose again. Her voice was steady. Her eyes glowed as she spoke. I listened like my life depended on it. Because it did. After training, she gave me akara and pap in a stainless steel flask. "Eat before you go," she said. "You're too thin." I wanted to cry. That evening, I went back to Baba Femi's workshop to sweep and pick up my small pay. As I worked, I saw 3 boys sitting on the edge of the gutter, laughing and talking. One of them was Fatai, a boy I once shared bread with. He looked at me and shouted, "Daimeji, I heard something." Oh. I looked up. "What? You want marry that old woman ABI?" The others burst into loud laughter. My hands stopped moving. He walked closer. "They say you go her house every day." "Not true." I didn't answer. He grinned. "You don't turn sugar boy." More laughter. One of them added, "Maybe not charm she use. Who go marry mummy like that?" I felt something burn in my chest. Shame. Anger. Confusion. I dropped my broom and walked away. Behind me they kept laughing. That night I couldn't eat. The words followed me home. They entered my head like insects. Sugar boy. Charm. Who go marry mummy like that? I looked at my siblings sleeping and asked myself again, Am I doing the right thing? Was I losing my dignity? Or was I just too proud to see a door God had opened? The next day, I returned to her house. Right on time. She was waiting with another folder. This one had her market strategies. She taught me how she studied people's behavior, how she found out what people wanted before they wanted it, how she bought lands quietly before they became valuable. I asked her a question. Why me? She paused. Because you didn't laugh. I didn't understand, she explained. Many boys came before you. When I told them my plan, they laughed in my face. One said he wanted only my money. One asked if we could sleep together that same night. One even ran away and told the town I was mad. She looked at me deeply. But you didn't laugh. You listened. You were afraid, but you still came back. I lowered my head. My eyes were hot again. After the lesson, she brought me a small bowl of jollof rice. My hands shook as I ate it. I hadn't tasted real rice in weeks. She noticed. You don't have to be ashamed, she said. Eat. He nodded. Then I whispered. People are laughing at me. She looked away. They laughed at me too. When I started selling cement in a town where only men did it, they called me mad. But I became the only woman with a warehouse. She smiled faintly. Let them laugh. When they're done, they'll watch. By the end of the week, my head was full of business ideas. Every day she gave me one small job. On Monday, I had to write down the prices of all food in the market. On Tuesday, I had to visit 3 shops and observe which customers came most often. On Wednesday, she made me explain how she could sell a product for more money than she bought it. She paid me 1,500 Nigerian nairas daily. I used the money to buy yams, beans, kerosene and soap. I fixed Sada's school sandals. I bought Fola a new toothbrush. For the first time in months, we had more than enough to eat. But the mocking didn't stop. One day I saw Fatai again. He waved a stick of suya in my face. Your mummy wife give you this too, he joked. People around laughed. Kept walking. But that night I cried. I went behind the house, sat on a broken chair, and let the tears flow. I wasn't crying because of them. I was crying because part of me wondered if they were right. Was I selling my pride? Was this woman really going to marry me? Or just using me? Would she drop me when she was done? I didn't know. I only knew one thing. I couldn't stop now. The big iron gate stood tall in front of me, just like it had the first day I came here. But this time something was different. I wasn't scared anymore. I had come to this place every day for 2 weeks now. Every morning at 8 a.m. sharp, I walked from my small house to Madame Veronica's big compound. I studied. I listened. Took notes. Asked questions. I cleaned the training room without being told. And every evening I went home with food for my siblings. And something even bigger than food. Oh. But that morning as I stood in front of the gate, something new filled my chest. Decision. I pressed the bell. The gate opened. The guard nodded and let me in without a word. As I walked toward the house, I saw the big tree in the corner of the compound. Its branches stretched like arms reaching for the sky. Birds sang above me, and I felt the quiet peace of wealth. I didn't feel like a stranger anymore. I entered the house and went to the training room. It was always clean. The desk waited for me. The notebooks I had used were stacked neatly. Madame Veronica wasn't there yet, but I sat and waited like a student waiting for his teacher. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes. Then the door opened. But this time she didn't enter alone. Behind her stood a man in a dark suit. His face was long and his eyes were narrow. He looked like someone who didn't smile often. Daimeji, she said. This is Mr. Ao. He's my lawyer. My body stiffened. Lawyer? Why? Mr. Ao nodded at me, but he didn't sit down. She continued. I called him here today because it's time we make things clear. I swallowed hard. She walked to her chair and sat down, then pointed to the chair across from her. Sit. I obeyed, even though my legs were suddenly weak. Daimeji, she said slowly, you've been coming here for 2 weeks. You've listened, you've worked, You've passed every task I gave you. He nodded. She leaned forward. But you still haven't answered my question. I frowned. Which question, Ma? She stared at me. Will you marry me? Silence. My heart stopped. I opened my mouth but no sound came out. I looked at her face. Calm, serious. I looked at Mr. Ao, expressionless. She raised a hand. Before you answer, I want you to understand what this means. She brought out a white envelope and placed it on the table. Inside this envelope is an agreement. If you say yes, we will sign it in front of my lawyer. You will become my husband. Not for love, not for pleasure, but for legacy. She stood and walked to the window. You will live here. You will take my name. You will learn how to run all my businesses. I will pay for your siblings' school. I will put food on your table. I will train you, mentor you, and give you everything I own when I die. I stared at the envelope. My chest was tight. She turned back to me. But in return, she said softly, you must accept the weight of my name, the gossip, the judgment, the looks from people who will never understand. I blinked. I felt tears coming. You must be strong, Daimeji, she added. Because when the world laughs at you, you must not laugh with them. I looked down, then up, then down again. I didn't know what to say. Then something strange happened. Faintly, I heard my mother's voice in my head. Daimeji, promise me you'll take care of them. I felt my chest break open. I don't know if I can be a husband, I said quietly. I've never even held a girl's hand. I don't know anything about being a man, not to talk of being someone's husband. She walked toward me. You've already been more of a man than most boys your age, she said. You stayed. You listened. You fought for your family. That's enough. I looked into her eyes. And I saw something I had never noticed before. Loneliness. Behind the power, the control, the money, there was a woman who had known pain too. Just like me. Slowly I nodded. Yes, Ma. I will marry you. She didn't smile. She just closed her eyes for a moment and nodded. Mr. Ao stepped forward. We will prepare everything, he said. But this agreement will be signed in private. No cameras. No town criers. Thank you, I whispered. That day she gave me something new, a key. This is for the small guest room at the back. Clean it and move in next week, she said. We will not share rooms. You'll live there and continue training until the marriage. I held the key like gold. When I got home that evening I didn't speak. I just dropped the food on the table and went outside. Sod followed me. What happened today? She asked, her eyes wide. I looked at her and smiled. I think we're going to be okay. She ran to hug me. Did someone give you a job? Yes, I said, hugging her tightly. A job I never imagined. The next morning, I visited my old friend Yusuf. He was one of the few boys who never laughed at me. When I told him the truth, he stared at me like I was mad. You're marrying her? He asked. Yes. For real? Yes. He scratched his head. Are you sure? He nodded. He didn't laugh. He just stared at the floor for a long time. Then he said something I didn't expect. You're brave, Daimeji. I couldn't do what you're doing. I looked at him. You think I'm doing the right thing? He shrugged. I think you're doing what you have to do. The town didn't stay quiet. A week later, the whispers turned into roars. People stared at me in the market. Some pointed. Some shook their heads. Some called me names. Wife boy. Gold digger. Small boy, big mummy. But I didn't answer. I went to Madame Veronica's house every day, cleaned the guest room, read her books, and learned how to run a business. At night, I stood at the gate and watched the town from inside. And I whispered to myself, let them laugh. I'm not living for them.